Yes.
News programs and how it influences the people who watch it.
What was their conclusion? What was their conclusion? Somebody else. What was the conclusion of the article about people who watch TV and its effect on them? Just read the abstract, you can figure that out, yes.
They have a higher perception of like crime.
Right, so they think that crime is more prevalent. What else? Big deal. I think crime is prevalent. If I got a gun, I don't care. Maybe I'm some lunatic and I want to live in a high crime area so I can shoot people. So what impact does it have on most average people who aren't willing to kill other people for the fun of it? Fear. Thank you. So one of the effects it appears that TV has on people who A, watch heavy amounts of television, and B, watch heavy amounts of television news programs, particularly local news programs. Why is it important that it's probably local news programs and not national news programs? To the level of fear in a general atmosphere. It's one thing to be afraid because there's like the absurdity of people in Wyoming thinking that terrorists are going to attack them comes directly out of the media. Nobody is trying to kill somebody in South Dakota, okay? They're not. Sorry to inform you, South Dakota. Frankly, you should take solace in the fact that there aren't people in other countries or even in this country who are trying to kill you, okay? But why? That explains at least that 9/11, for example, was obviously a very national, international story. Now, as Americans, probably South Dakotans have something to worry about if they get on an airplane or in general the impact of the economy of a terrorist attack. Their personal safety was not up in the air. Why is it important that the video or the article focused at least at very minimum half of its analysis or a fair amount of its analysis on people who watch local news programs? Yes?
Well, I mean, obviously, local news would be closer to home.
Right, so proximity would be an issue. If there's a serial killer on the loose in Texas, I don't care. That's Texas's problem. Maybe a little travel warning. And one of the other things is a general issue that comes up that really speaks to the conflict theory of media being driven for profit is the fact that let's take a case where a murder happened and the suspect was caught and found guilty and thrown in jail. Why do I care about Scott Peterson? Who gives a crap? Does it make my life better to know that some asshole slaughtered his pregnant wife on Christmas Eve? Does that make my life better? Does that make me think human beings are decent people? It might make me not want to go outside or it might make me want to buy a gun. Here's the problem. At least one element of the Scott Peterson case they got right. What's the part of the Scott Peterson case that you can take away from if you're going to get married about murder? And I hope people get this lesson. Who's my deviance class get it? Who do murderers usually kill? Or family or friends. And I tell people, they think I'm joking when I say this, if you want to drop your chances of being murdered to even below 15%, which would be like 1 in... If you want to basically eliminate your chances of getting murdered, there's two things you can do. One, don't live in a high crime area. And two, don't have any family or friends. Period. Murder's problem solved. And I'll tell you another thing, that I don't think the general American public, I don't think this helps. Do people have a cynical attitude towards human behavior? That there seems to be something fundamentally wrong with the way human beings interact with each other? War, slavery, abuse, beatings. I mean, look, do I need to go down the past 100,000 years of human history to make you guys understand? They built monuments to the Holocaust. Human beings have made monumental mistakes. Does that mean that every human being is that way, or even the majority of people are that way? What happens when you get stories like Lacey Peterson or Charles Manson, even worse, or the Ted Bundy cases, where Ted Bundy was this attractive, charismatic, intelligent guy, and he used to rape and murder women? Sickest of all, with the one thing he used to do, he used to kill strangers, so that makes him unique. The sickest thing of all about Ted Bundy is he used to go back to the bodies and put makeup on them and have sex with them again. And when the news focuses on stories like that, do you even want to shake another human being's hand at that point? And you know what goes through your head when they catch people like the BTK killer who was married, had kids, and he worked for ADT Security at one point. He was a compliance officer, which is like one of these little security guards for the city. They write tickets if your grass is not mowed properly. And he was the head of his church group, and he was the head of a Boy Scout troop. He was an expert at tying knots. To find out that guy killed 11 people, and had he not essentially did things that helped the police find out who he was, that he'd still be running around. You know, when you hear things like that, it makes you. I think at least for some people, at least for a little while, I don't know how long it lasts, it makes you a little reticent, or at least question things in your head when stuff happens with friends or strangers. And certainly, the general tenor of, let's get away from bizarre crime, like Lazy Peterson and stuff. Just the idea that not only do you see situations like, if you live in a high crime area, not only do you see it on TV that people are being mugged, but you know people have been mugged. Maybe you've been mugged. Maybe your car's been broken into. Maybe somebody tried to break into your apartment. Maybe you knew a friend who got beat up at a bar. Who probably did something to deserve it. Okay, very few people get. Look, if you're a spectator, okay, you get hit by a bottle or something, you probably didn't deserve it. But most people. I mean, look, there's not much more of a dangerous combination of a bunch of testosterone-up men in a bar, drunk, running their mouths. I mean, why don't you just throw a hand grenade in there, too? Just throw some radioactive material in there. I mean, why people, and this here's my op-ed piece, why people want on Friday and Saturday nights to go into that environment must mean sex must be the most magnificent thing in their mind or something. To put up with that nonsense just at the end of the night to have a chance at sex, it just blows me away. I have never once been in a bar where I was like, wow, that was an enjoyable evening. And if you go to bars, you better expect, I'll tell you right now, you want to avoid crime? Don't avoid walking on the streets. Don't buy a security system. Just don't go to bars. Go ask NFL players what happens at bars late at night. Go ask Plaxico Burress what happens when you go to the bar. I mean, his thing wasn't even that bad. Go ask Dante Star Wars. He got drunk and ran somebody over and killed him. Yeah, he got accused of rape, and he probably was guilty. My cousin's fantasy football's team name was Big Ben as a big rapist. It wasn't mine. I won anyway. That's why I quit. I retired the champion. And I was like the Giants. I was the last seed in the playoffs. So. Anyway. Michael Vick helped me out, which is another person who went to jail, okay? And I'll tell you what, dog fights don't happen at noon. They happen at 8 o'clock on Friday night. Okay? So the bigger issue is I think what we need to determine is the TV news merely informing the people from a critical perspective? Or are they blowing things out of proportion? And if they are blowing things out of proportion, why are they doing it? Because they'll tell you it's competition. Just like when companies do this all the time. When Wendy's gets a chicken snap rack, Burger King has to have one. And when McDonald's had a $1 menu, now they all have a $1 menu. Now they all have these freshly made shakes, and all of them sell. It's insane. I would like to sit these people down and say, look, you are not distinguishing yourself from your competitors. I would also like to say to every single one of these fast food companies, you don't recycle. Why? This is a whole other issue. But let's get to the television news. Are they just informing the public? Which is what, hey, look, the news media and the television, if there's somebody out there beating people up or attacking people or the crime rate is rising, shouldn't the media tell people about this stuff? There's a couple institutions that should tell you. I mean, the government should tell you, but they tell you through the media. Or are they just focusing on bizarre murder and because most murders are not crime, and they never put it in context. With the Scott Peterson story, I never once saw a story about Scott Peterson that said, even though the murder rate is very low in Scott Peterson's neighborhood, and the crime rate in general has been going down in the United States, this is a unique case for this several reasons. You know why? Because they don't care. They don't care about being proportional. They don't care about explaining themselves. They think you know. But this is just the way things go in the media. And I'll tell you right now, as far as the news, this is the way it was when they were writing crap on papyruses in Greece. Okay, so this isn't anything new. Look at the Trojan War. Starts out with a love affair and ends up with the city of Troy being destroyed. Right? And all this heroic and blah, blah, blah. How come heroes always have other people's blood on them? Pretty sick. So what's going on here? Is the media telling it like it is, or are they exaggerating things? Why? Who to keep up in competition with who? In their same field. So not only other news agencies, right? Now, like if you were Channel 5 News in the 1980s, you didn't need to deal with CNN, really. There was no MSNBC. There was no Fox News. There was none of this stuff. There were even less network channels. Let's go back to when there were only 4 networks, or actually 3 at one point, in public television. And there was a couple UHF stations. You guys don't even understand it. TVs used to have dials. And they used to have a UHF dial. And sometimes you had to hold or put aluminum foil on the antennas and stuff. When cable came along and went directly into your TV, and CNN's been around since 1980, but even when they started out, most people didn't have cable, and sometimes you didn't have that channel. So if you went back to the 50s and 60s, you had 3 networks, essentially. PBS News, which nobody's scared of PBS. Okay? They're not. I'm trying to think of an analogy. They're like the library. You're not scared of the library, okay? But bookstores aren't. Amazon's not concerned about the library. They're not. Because most people, even though books are free, essentially, nobody goes to the library anymore. That's why they're closing them down constantly. Okay? Eventually, on some levels, hope we get to this point. The Supreme Court is dealing with a case with that health care bill, and they have a half a ton of paperwork that they turned in support, in opposition, both sides have turned in, so the justices can get involved in this. And I'm thinking, I thought this was going to be a paperless world, so let's hope we can get to that point. But anyway, so they have to deal with news agencies and 24-hour news stations. Just more importantly, they have to deal with Law and Order and CSI, which turns crime into some kind of stylized, romantic, bizarre drama, and gets psychological and gets inside the heads, or like, what was that, Criminal Minds. That's the one that drives me crazy. I saw, and I only watched it because I was at my friend DJ's house, and he wanted to watch it. And it starred Freddie Munoz, the kid from Malcolm in the Middle. And he was a comic book author, and he had this attractive blonde girlfriend. And they went out one day to get some food or something, and a gang attacked them and gang raped her in front of him. So again, right there is an absolutely ridiculous crime. Gang rape does not happen that often. It does, and when it is horrendous, and certainly it deserves a certain amount of attention by the press. But to play it up like this, like it happens every day, is the reason why people carry guns and pepper spray and do all kinds of other silly things. And I'm not saying don't be prepared. But be aware, but also don't be scared by this stuff. So you know what he did? He went around cutting the heads off of the people who did it with a knife, with blades, like with swords, based on his comic book character. Like some kind of vigilante Batman. That's why I was told, Batman is a criminal. He doesn't hold people to trial, he drops them off of roofs. If you watch the first Batman series, he kills people. He kills people in the comic book. Does Superman kill people? He takes them to jail where they get out on parole in 6 months. And Lex Luthor goes, I'll see you in 6 months. When I figured out how to defeat you, Superman. Right? Even Robin kills people. But anyway. So the bigger issue is that the news has to deal with the blood and guts. They have to deal with not only crime dramas, but hey, look, the special effects. And one of the reasons why people still love the Star Wars movies is not only because they digitally remastered them, because it is amazing what they did with little models. That was not computer-aided animation or special effects. That was people with little things like moving one little piece and then taking a picture, and then moving a little piece and then taking a picture, and creating these battles. But in your lifetime, since you were born, special effects have gone from being caveman kind of things to being the most amazing, spectacular looking thing. And now, one of the only reasons why they're bringing back 3D, you guys have realized that they have been trying this since the 1950s. But they've been trying to get people. And I'm telling these people right now, it centers around one fact and one fact only. I am not going to, and if you wear glasses, you know this even worse. I am not going to sit in a theater and wear sunglasses. Or in my home and wear sunglasses. I will not do that. Okay? And they will, and I'll tell you right now, this 3D attempt is going to fail miserably just like all the rest. Until they get holographic television, it will not succeed. It won't succeed. How many, do you like wearing glasses? How many here prefer the 2D version over the 3D version? You didn't see that, but almost everybody in the class, movie producers, raised their hands. HD? I'm all about that. I'm all day with that. I love that. Okay, special effects? I don't know this stuff popping out in my face, okay? I don't want to see it. I wasn't that impressed with Avatar, okay? Believe it or not, now they're putting out they're putting out the Star Wars movies again. All 6 of them, 3D. Now they did the Titanic. Like, look, it was boring enough. Is it going to be more boring in 3D? When I watched that movie, I'm like, drowned already, dude. Just drowned. They should have found a way to knock Billy Zane off the boat, though. Somebody should have knocked him off the boat or pushed him out of the life raft. That would have been a much better story, right? It's actually kind of a tragedy. She throws that diamond in the ocean. He dies. And then Zane gets away with his life. So, anyway, the captain went down with the ship. All right, so we'll get back to that, those TV elements and stuff. But again, one of the things, and I've termed this the tragedy of dramatic tension. The news has to mimic drama. And look, let's face it. Who here watches The Office? I know I've showed you episodes of this. There's an episode called Email Surveillance where Jim throws a party. Michael's reading their emails, and he finds out that Jim is throwing a party, and he didn't invite him to the party. And he tries to blow it off, but that night he had an improv class. Does anybody remember what Michael does in his improv class that drives everybody crazy? Because he thinks it's the most dramatic thing in the world. He thinks it's the only thing that can be interesting in a movie. Does anybody know? You guys don't remember? See, this is why I think there's something you at least with TV shows like that, I can remember these things real well. He comes in every single time someone starts a scene, like somebody will go, I'm holding the baby, and he'll come in, freeze, I got a gun. And stuff like that. Every single time, he's like, I got a gun. And it gets to the point where the acting instructor has to go, give me all your guns, Michael. So he's going like this, and he's like pulling things out. And then he goes, no more guns, Michael, no more guns. And in a little aside to the camera, you know, it's like sort of a pseudo documentary, he goes, what, in a movie, what can be the most exciting thing that can ever happen? And what he is displaying there is sort of the twisted attitude that people in the media get. That, look, if there ain't nudity, there better be blood. If there ain't blood, there better be nudity. And sometimes, how many horror movies have you seen that has some sexual element in it? Somebody takes their top off, or somebody's having sex, and then a pitchfork goes right through. You know, so seriously, I mean, in the confounding and the conflation of sex and violence, I think is a very dangerous thing. Okay, this reminds me of the Trojan War, sex and violence, right? Look, they weren't fighting over Helen because she was disgusting looking, or because she was bad and dead. Okay, Menelaus wouldn't have cared, would he? I mean, seriously. Anyway, and I love it. Who'd they put the star in the movie? They put Bradley in it. And then also, who played Hector? Huh? Or Paris? Who played Paris? Right. So these really attractive people, right? So there's a, you know, and who they picked to play. I don't even know who the woman who played Helen. She never did anything. As you get those of you who are interested in getting the movies, if someone says, we're going to make you play Helen of Troy, you should ask yourself why. They must be seeing more beauty than intelligence. And what's interesting is the historical Helen was actually much more intelligent and politically savvy than they give her credit for in any of the movies that they've ever done, if you actually read accounts of who this woman was. This was not some dumbass. I will tell you that one thing, and it fits right in with the movies, and I'm surprised they didn't put it in the movie, because the only reason why they didn't is because it's PG-13. Helen was, the reason why that Paris fell in love with her is because during the temple ceremonies in Greece, the women used to go topless. And that's how she used to walk around the palace. Okay, so we get back to sex. Okay, or at least lookism element of sex. Anyway, all right. So you get an idea of what's going on with the news media. We'll talk about that here in a second when we break down the articles. I'm going to move to, since the paper is due on Monday, the take-home test. I want to move to this. And I know it says all 3 out of 4. Just answer 3 out of 4 questions. Okay, that was just a misprint. Anyway, so I'm going to go over questions 1 and 2 and 3 as well. And then we'll leave 4 for next time. Yes?
On the paper it says due date 4.
Huh?
On the paper it says due date April 4th, which is not Monday.
Well, whatever. Let me check the syllabus. Well, it says April 2nd here, but if it says on the paper, that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind giving people extra day, but you better keep up with Armageddon and Waco reading. Besides, we're going to have quizzes on that anyway. Okay? And if I get the impression that nobody's reading here, I'm going to give you the full final. Okay? I don't want to do it either, because I got a lot of things. I'm busy. Okay? I'm trying to get the hell out of my apartment. Anyway. I'm going to go live in a place where I don't have to pay $800 for an apartment that's about the size of one of these people's sheds. Indignity I've had. Anyway, all right. So we're going to go over 1, 2, and 3 today. We'll save 4 for next time. We'll also save parts of question 3 for next time because I want you to watch, and this should say it on the. Those of you who looked on the article on Blackboard, there's a link there for Merchant School. Watch that by Wednesday. Okay, you're going to need that information. If we had time, we'd show all these documentaries, but we don't have time because on Wednesday I'm going to show you Growing Up Online, which is sort of a continuation and expansion of some of the ideas in Merchant School. So make sure to watch Merchant School by Wednesday. The references are a little out of date. They talk about bands like Limp Bizkit and Insane Clown Posse and Carson Daly. Who has disappeared off the face. You know, there's sometimes good when people disappear off the face of the earth. I hope Ryan Seacrest goes that way one of these days. Although, you know, with Ryan Seacrest, you just ignore it. I mean, here's somebody who is a flaming D-bag who makes 5 to 6 times, probably 8, 9 times what the average human being makes and does absolutely nothing worthwhile for humanity. Tell me one thing Ryan Seacrest has contributed to this country. The guy is sending to Afghanistan. So you like that? Hey, here's a gun, sucker. Trying to charm your way out of this one, buddy. You're probably like, man, as long as I have hair care products. Anyway. All right, let's go on. Enough of shallow, ignorant, narcissistic, vain people, which seems to be all that populates the media. So let's go to number 1 here. So again, 2.5 pages a piece for these. Only answer 3 out of 4. The first question I'm really asking you about who the media companies are, what some of their focus is, and then in general how much media do young people use and how much influence does it have. I mean, generally the idea is, and I still find it funny that, because people to this day still deny that the media has any effect on young people. I find it funny. Now, it certainly does not. If you watch somebody murder somebody, you're going to kill somebody. If you watch drugs, you're going to use drugs. But certainly there's a synergy with media and people's life choices. That if something the media is showing is cool, and somebody's already thinking about doing it, or again, remember I told you about the media doesn't need to give you reasons. Remember the 101 reasons to throw a party or whatever? When it's something that people want to do anyway, like have sex, all the media has to do is just suggest it. It doesn't even have to say do this or do this because it's cool, does it? It just do this. And here's why. It reminds me of the Nike commercial, just do it. When that first came out, people thought that was obscene. Because I don't think they were thinking run 100 yards or a 100-meter dash or something like that. Okay? So one of the things we're looking at here in this answer is time equals influence to some extent. Okay? And the reason why we say that to media, look, I don't think anybody's going to deny, like, let's take elementary or high school students. You're in school 7 to 8 hours, 7 hours a day, 7 hours a day. Don't you think that the educational institutions have some influence on your life? But I would even go further as to say that 1 hour with the media, which young people choose to engage in, and engage in with their defenses down, has much more an effect on their choices and their personalities because it meshes with their peer group than what happens at school. But here's the thing that's like in class, like instructional stuff that happens in school. Okay, because I'm telling you right now, all of you've read Shakespeare. I don't think you could quote me a line. I don't even think that a lot of you could explain to me why your teachers put so much emphasis on a 14th century writer anyway, who talks like some kind of goofy Bible or something like that. If thou and thus blah blah blah. I mean, yeah, Shakespeare's kind of cool and the stories are interesting, but come on, it's just stuff. Okay, that's what I always tell people. I try to tell people both ways. Look, music didn't start with Elvis, and it didn't start with Lady Gaga either. Okay, so I mean, the bigger issue is what happens at school, or what happens in the media, to me, penetrates all other institutions to some extent. Whether you're with a peer group, whether you're in your family, whether you're at home, engaging in the media, or just as importantly at school. So one of the things I want you to focus on here is young people in the media. So the first question is really about that to some extent. And I don't think you can sit here and deny that 4.5 to 5 to sometimes 7 hours of media contact. Again, most parents will tell you, and social psychologists will back this up, after about 2 months of hanging around a particular group, if you weren't acting like them before, you are acting like them now. And your value systems and beliefs are going to come in closer to them. Now, some people, and this is the smart thing to do, but it doesn't work this way. People like to think that they choose their mates and their friends, and you certainly don't choose your family. But I think people like to think that they choose their boyfriend and girlfriends and their friends. Do you really do that? Do you have ultimate choice? You can just point at somebody and say, yeah, okay, I want to date Catherine David-Jones. That's going to happen tomorrow. How about Katie Perry? I'll take her. Does that happen? Is that the way it happens? Or I want to be friends with so-and-so. Is that the way it works? Or are your choices a little more limited? They're limited to your background, how cool you're perceived to be, your class level, your gender. Okay? Mostly importantly, the cliques, right? Cliques determine who you date, who you're friends with. If you're a nerd or a jock or whatever, these goth people. Okay? And if you straddle one or two of them, you're going to be lonely. Okay? Remember these people at Columbine, they were in the trench coat mafia. That's what they called themselves. I'm not kidding. Okay? Or the punk rock group, or the hip-hop people, or whatever it is. And if you hear my language there, what are many of these cliques centered around? What do some of the things in these groups share in common? What do they like to talk about, you think? Music, movies. I guarantee you the Hunger Games is probably the most talked about thing in high school right now. Okay, either it was the crappiest movie they ever saw, or it was the greatest thing they ever saw, or man, they didn't match the book, or blah, 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 or commenting about this actor or this actress or whatever it is. Okay? When you're young and you don't have a job, and let's face it, and America knows this, they just don't want to do anything about it. High school's like walking through the park. I mean, I used to come home, high school was so unfulfilling to me intellectually, I would go home and read 200 pages of an advanced college level book just to get my fill. Because high school was so ignorant and almost like condescending. Like it's glorified babysitting. I always loved having gym class. That was fun. Like Jerry said, I'm learning calculus and Spanish, and all of a sudden I'm climbing a rope like some kind of a lunatic or like a guerrilla warrior or something. I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? Dodging balls. My gym was like 9:20 in the morning, which was a nightmare in the morning. Anyway, but again, the point is that time here equals influence because of how people perceive the media. Okay? Like if you work at Walmart, you might be there 8 hours a day, but Walmart, the work may change your personality, but you're not going to become a Walmart person just because you're there. You might even hate it even more every single day if you're there. So time doesn't always lead to influence, but time leads to influence when it comes to media because young people eat it up like it's crack. It never stops for some people. I had friends when EverQuest first came out, would stay up for 3 days. And how long does it take after you slashing things with swords before you start going outside and like in a delusional state because you haven't had sleep for 3 days and start trying to live this out? I can tell you one thing, maybe that's not the case because most people don't have swords, but when you get done driving a race car game or something for a real long time and you get in your car, you got to watch it. It impacts your behavior. It makes you more aggressive, especially if you watch, if you play Grand Theft Auto or something like that, or one of these crash-up games that you play, or NASCAR racing games. Okay. Anyway, so and remember we talked about media and used that media aggression and altruism article here too. Remember that was a meta-analysis on the effects. You can use the APA article, but I would prefer you wait till here and use the APA article here. But anyway, so is the influence of media on young people in America increasing or decreasing, and why? There you want to look at that Kaiser Family Foundation. I gave you the link for that, as well as putting some of the results on the Blackboard slides themselves. Okay. Then I want you, and this is from the slideshow, but it is backed up by that Vick 6 monopoly thing. As well as the ideas of cultivation theory, like on that APA article, they talk about this to some extent, that compare the conflict view of the media, which suggests that the media is meant to reinforce the status quo and to sell products and to generally support both the corporate structure of America, also the military structure, when you look at the power elite theory, and the government as well. Like, and this is a minor thing, but it speaks to the fact that how the press tries to avoid upsetting or making the president look bad. When George Bush was in office, nobody ever asked him about his cocaine and marijuana use or his drunk driving arrest. Similarly with Obama, no one's ever got to him about this. And more importantly for Obama, no one's ever said, "Mr. why are you still smoking?" And even though that's not corruption, it's not Watergate, isn't that an important fact? Doesn't that make the president look like an addicted idiot? Doesn't that make him look like a bad decision maker, that he would choose to smoke and die? And he's got 2 kids under the age of 10. That he would choose to risk it, that he wants to play Russian roulette with his health. And I'll tell you right now, everybody said, oh, I don't want to vote for John McCain because he's 72 years old. First of all, he's still alive right now, so we made it through the first term. However, having Sarah Palin sit behind you is not comforting. Okay, I mean, would you get on an airliner where you had confidence in the pilot, yet he was old, and then they said, well, who's the co-pilot? And said it's some clown. This guy in a clown suit. He's fine, man. He never flown, but he'll be cool. He knows what the handle is. Put it on autopilot. All right, it'll be fun. But anyway, how about Obama? He could get lung cancer and drop dead. As an American, that bothers me that the president can't put this down. Just like if he was a drunk. Would you want the president to be a drunk? Or a pillhead? And again, and also, why the press doesn't bother him about this, also it's about his impression in young people. And there's one other element. The news media, even though they don't like these companies, does not want to make the tobacco companies look bad. Period. That's why they don't talk about the things they do. How come the media doesn't talk about how tobacco companies target young people in places like China? And the U.S. government not only is well aware of this, but assists tobacco growers in the United States to sell their leaves and exported cigarettes to these countries. Because we've restricted them in this country. This would be like, we outlaw DDT, but we sell it to China. But anyway, so those are some of the issues you might want to get into. Or corporations. How come there are no stories about the way iPads are made in China? Or what Walmart does in China? How come there aren't more stories about how McDonald's doesn't pay their employees enough to live? Or offer them health insurance? Or sick days? Does that make you feel comfortable that Walmart and McDonald's, especially McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell and Wendy's and White Castles and Subway, do not offer their employees paid sick days? That doesn't bother you with the swine flu flying around? Because guess what? If someone's sick, what are they going to do if they work at McDonald's in the kitchen? They're coming into work, aren't they? How does that make you feel? How come the press doesn't talk about that? How come the press doesn't talk about the national debt? I'm trying to give you examples here of support for the conflict theory. Now, let's go to the functional view of media, which is also called the pluralist view of media. What's the functionalist view of media? That there are corporations that control it and try to prevent you from seeing certain information? Or that the media is much more equal in its treatment of corporations and government? Does the media criticize politicians? Does the media criticize companies like BP when they spill oil all over the place? Does the media sometimes make companies look really, really bad? You ever seen Super Size Me? Here's the argument. If the media and corporations are in bed together, then why did somebody put Morgan Spurlock's movie out? Can anybody guess what a conflict theorist would say in response? About Morgan Spurlock's movie, why it was made? What if the company that produced Morgan Spurlock's movie was a shareholder in Burger King? Or Subway? Now you start to see here how this stuff is used? Or, on top of that, why do you think somebody would put out a movie like Super Size Me? Do a lot of people eat at McDonald's? So did a lot of people go see that movie? How many people here saw that movie or DVD or see, there you go. So there's money behind it. Morgan Spurlock tries to act like he's some country bumpkin from West Virginia. And he's actually a multimillionaire. He didn't do that. He didn't do that to. Do you think that he ate McDonald's for 30 days and risked his health just because he wanted to show everybody the moral damage and health damage that it could do to have fast food restaurants in your society? Why did he do it? Why? Yeah. Because George Washington was whispering in his ear. I think it's so appropriate that we put presidents on dollar bills. Just put Obama's face on there. He raises $1 billion to run for president. You know? Maybe we put Dick Cheney and his new heart on there. I always knew he would steal someone's heart eventually. I never thought he had one. Frankly. So it doesn't shock me that someone that mean can have a broken heart. Like literally broken. It doesn't work properly, you know? And I would say also, most of the time when you're 71, does anybody know anything about the medical field? Does anybody here pre-med or anything? Do they normally give 71-year-olds heart transplants? Why? What usually happens about 30 days after a 71-year-old gets a heart transplant. I don't like him. And it ain't a Republican-Democrat thing. To me, he is one of the worst Americans I've ever seen. Name somebody worse. We don't have a Hitler. He's it. And he didn't do nearly what Hitler did, but still. I think if you... Let me put it... This is one thing I will say to those of you who like Dick Cheney. I hope it's not many of us. But just to say one last thing about Dick Cheney. If he had complete control of the world, do you think it would be a good situation or a bad situation? If he was the supreme dictator of the universe, do you think things would go well and everybody would get fed? Or do you think he'd put people in slave camps and execute people? What do you think he would? What do you think if Dick Cheney was dictator of the United States and somebody disagreed with him? What would happen to him? Do you think Obama would do that if he was the supreme dictator? Do you think even George Bush would have done that if he was the supreme dictator? That's what I'm talking about. You ever want to know whether or not somebody's truly evil or not? Just play that game with them. If Howard Stern was dictator of the world, what would it look like? If Donald Trump ran the world, what would it look like? Play that game. You want to find out who's good or not. Seriously. If Mitt Romney was supreme dictator, what would it be like? Who knows? He'd make everybody grow sideburns. Anyway. So the pluralist theory would suggest, hey, look, the media shows plenty of stuff that contradicts official sources. What's loose change about? What's loose change about? Anybody seen it?
9/11.
70 million people. Why is it so controversial? And why does it disprove conflict theory suggestion that only certain types of media and discourse are allowed?
Because it's alleged that 9/11 was an inside job.
Right, that the government either, one, let it happen as a convenient way to start a war in Afghanistan, which the Unocal company wanted to build an oil pipeline from Uzbekistan into the Gulf there, And the Taliban refused to do it, so that this was a convenient excuse, as well also to start a war in Iraq, or B, that the government made it happen. They planned this out specifically. Okay? Now, I would like to say that if that did happen, there's no way it was through the presidency, because these dumbasses were in this country from like 1997 on, or something, a lot of them. Okay? So, I'll tell you one thing that came across as really weird. Do you remember the one thing in there that they said that they had evidence that Muhammad Atta and a lot of the other leaders were trained where?
I don't know. I know the CIA trained.
In army bases in the United States. They claim that the army claims these are different people. How many Muhammad Attas are there in the United States? I mean, come on, man. Seriously. Or how come they were all? It was none of this. And let me put it another way. How many Saudi Arabian Muslims from other countries, or Saudi Arabian Muslims anyway, do you think train on U.S. Army bases for the U.S. military? Would 1, 3, 5? I mean, come on. You ever seen the military? It's not exactly Muslim oriented. Okay. But anyway, regardless, so how does that disprove conflicts theory that says, hey, oppositional messages won't get out there?
Clearly, that's an oppositional message right there.
And 70 million people watched it. Has it ever been shown on television?
No.
So there might be... So what might be happening is both these things. That there is a lot of room in the media for differing opinions, but those differing opinions are sometimes clamped down upon. Or, here's the thing. What pluralist theory would say especially is, the internet has changed the equation. Whereas before I needed a news press to do a newspaper, I needed a television station to do a TV show. Do I need any of those things now to get my message out? And Justin Bieber couldn't be happier that he didn't have to go through American Idol. I'll tell you right now, do you really think that in the old days you played in small clubs and you did that for 3 or 4 years and you generated enough attention and you got a demo made and then you hope to God somebody would sign you or see you or something? And I'm telling you right now, and this is why a lot of people don't like popular music, the most talented musicians almost never get record contracts. Okay? And I don't mean just you can... Look, just because you can sing Celine Dion doesn't mean you're an artist. Unless you write songs, that's why Bob Dylan is such an important artist. He's an artistic figure. You understand the difference between Bob Dylan and Kelly Clarkson? Does everybody understand that difference? Between Bob Dylan, a man who writes songs that impact social change, and some idiot like Justin Bieber who squeaks. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Oh, it's just love songs. Love songs, love songs. Come on with this. How many love songs can you write? And let me tell you, those who are going into music, the love song's been written 10 billion different times in the same way. It's enough. There's more to life than romance. And almost all love songs focus on this puppy dog heroine feeling that people get in their mind when they first get into a relationship. About, oh my God, and they walked in the room. And then the other love songs focus on smashing somebody's truck windows and things like that because I came home and you were in the shower with somebody. Didn't Carrie Underwood, yeah. Got some anger in it. Demi Lovato just punched that girl on the airplane. I'm impressed. Like Sandra Bullock in that scene from Crash. I like people a little... I'm suspicious of people who never show anger. Reminds me of Adam Sandler's character on Anger Management. You have an implosive type of anger. Right? Anyway. But I'm a passionate person, so it's hard for me to deal with people who don't. People always confuse me for being angry, which I find is hilarious. Anyway. Anyway. If I'm angry, it's because the world made me so. Anyway, and then Fight Club. Anybody watch Fight Club? What's this about? Right, but what's he do as far as consumer society? Yeah, he rejects it. There's one scene in there where Brad Pitt's character, who is Edward Norton's sort of alter ego, sits there and goes, what's a duvet? Why do we care? Why are we paying for this stuff? Why do we care what Martha Stewart's doing? Why do I know what this stuff is? Right? This obsession with material goods. And also, that this notion that their manhood has been lost by living these metrosexual cubicle jobs where nobody ever gets into a fight, and it's more about smoothing things over than being a real man, and that they're projecting that you should get into fights with strangers and you should blow up, you should start a terrorist group and blow up the credit buildings because the credit ratings are unfair. Do you think that's a good message to send to the American people? You think some people might take that the wrong way? And the proof is, fight clubs started popping up all over America after that movie. Similarly, after Seinfeld showed that Festivus episode, people to this day celebrate Festivus, and that show's been off the air for 15 years. There's a company in Minnesota that sells Festivus poles. So don't tell me the media can't affect people's behavior. But let me put it this way. The people who created these fight clubs, do you think they didn't have the desire to get into fights in the first place? Or do you think they were probably pretty rambunctious people in the first place? It's like, look, if I watch a movie about skydiving, I'm not going out and skydiving. But there's about 15% of people who are already thinking about skydiving, and that's why they went and saw the movie anyway, and they're going! They're going that day! They might have planned it before they watched the movie. I hope something like Hunger Games ain't going to happen. We're John Carter. Anyway, shit me off the mark. And then what's Fahrenheit 9/11 about? Which was, up until Hunger Games, was Lionsgate's biggest blockbuster. This movie they just made beat it in one weekend. This made $150 million this week. And by the way, Lionsgate, you owe me money for advertising yours. So what's Fahrenheit 9/11 about? Most of you haven't seen it. Maybe you should see it. It was a movie by Michael Moore. He's pretty fair, right? He tells it like it is, right? He doesn't use propaganda, right? I think what Michael Moore is, similar to Bill O'Reilly, is somebody. He is an op-ed journalist to some extent. He takes facts and then interprets them based on his political slant. So, like Loose Change, Fahrenheit 9/11 asked some questions about the Bush administration that seemed not to be answered, about their relationship with the Bin Laden family, the relationship with the Saudis, whether or not they were covering up information that the Pakistanis were involved in this, all this other stuff. So in general, what you can argue, and you can argue both ways, that hey, the success of these films shows that the conflict view of the media is wrong, but you can also say, hey, you know what? The only reason why these movies were made was to make money, and they were willing to take the chance that this might damage public opinion of corporations or consumer society or the government. And also on top of that, that is what we call token opposition. What's that mean, token opposition? Like many times, like you guys don't realize this, but for example, a company like Safeway or Kroger, which I think is basically the same company, they own supermarkets all over the place, but they call them different things. Why would you want to do that to prevent anti-monopoly types of sentiment? The companies do this all the time. They have subsidiaries in the business. So what's token opposition? Well, it's opposition, but it's not real. It's just, here, let's throw this up to make it look like there's competition going on or open views. It would be like inviting if Ron Paul got the Reform Party nomination, just like letting him talk at the debates, but never giving him any real airtime and never giving him any interviews. And it's probably what's going to happen. I would assume that Ron Paul is going to get the Libertarian Party nomination. I don't think he wants it, but he'll get it. Okay? Which, when you get him out of the debate forum, he's a very intelligent man. He's actually the only candidate we have in the race that has a doctoral degree. So I think he has a medical degree, believe it or not. Anyway. All right, so anybody have any questions on that first one? Yes?
Yes, when we compare the conflict view with the functional view, can we focus on consumerism or the sexualization of women?
You can do either one. I would prefer you focus on the big macro picture of what conflict theorists say the media is for. You want to talk about, you might want to use the sex element in media, that's proof that the only thing that media companies care about is profit. And what's funny is that people thought the signing of heavy metal bands and rap musicians early on in the 80s was going to destroy the entire system. People really thought that Capitol Music and other big music companies were just selling this crap, which was going to disrupt childhood development and make young people into anarchists. and that eventually that it would unravel the system. Clearly, that's not what happened. What is going on now is if you get a band like, even Lady Gaga is this, it's what we call canned revolution. It's like Marilyn Manson, who, by the way, is so pathetic now that he's playing over the Paramount in Huntington. You know how big the Paramount is? This room's about the size. Are you going to go see him? You just don't like him. Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you don't like him, go look up his yearbook photo. He is this dorkiest dork that fell off the dork tree. He had every dork branch on the way down. I would have beat him up. Okay? He was the one that other nerds beat up so they could look cool. Seriously, this guy is the biggest loser I've ever seen. Alright, look it up. And he put on makeup and tried to scare parents. The beautiful people, blah, blah, blah. Shut up and sit down. Seriously. But it's Canned Revolution versus another band, or two main bands, Slayer, one of them, which never made it big mainstream. Because why? What kind of a band is Slayer? They're Satanists. Believe it or not, 3 of their members went to Harvard Music School. Well, the only good thing Harvard ever did. But then also a band called Rage Against the Machine, which refused to be commercialized, and they talk specific. They have a song called "Killing in the Name of," which is about how people use religious beliefs to kill people. Another one called "Bulls on Parade" about the military. Okay, calling into question the behavior of the U.S. government. You don't see Rage Against the Machine around, do you? And they're probably under surveillance by the FBI. I can almost assure you of that. Okay. Anyway. So there's a good example that you can focus on any one of these things. You can use the APA article as a proof that the obsession with sex, and I would say the same thing. What I love about this is that most of these people who own media companies are conservative Republicans, but they sell liberal, what some people would call, I wouldn't say liberal, but hedonistic garbage. I would call it liberal, but the hedonistic crap, sex, and not healthy sexuality. Abusive sexuality, objectification, and promiscuity, and fornication, and adultery, like Desperate Housewives. That show is an impetus to violate moral rules, isn't it? I mean, it's a legitimization of, hey, this is wrong, but that's why it's so much fun. Right? They advertise Las Vegas like that. Hey, what you do here will stay here. Not if Facebook's around. Okay? I knew my aunt's church group went to Las Vegas for a retreat. I'm like, what do you do? Are you even going to convert people, or are they going to convert you? I just never understood that. And if you want a convention hall, there's plenty of convention halls in New Orleans, although that's Sin City too. Anyway, all right, number 2. We'll go over this here in a second. What is cultivation theory? What does it say about the media's impact on heavy users of commercial media? The skin tone article was about that. The APA article mentions cultivation theory. I think it was on page 12 or 13, somewhere in there. Look in the theory section. And then the article for today talked about cultivation theory. And then what is the mean world, scary world theory, and how does it fit in with the drive for profit, focus on violence and sexual content? The mean world or scary world theory is because the media focuses, especially the news media, national or local, focuses so much on violent content, on frightening content, on weird, bizarre, the book can write itself. You could write a book called Media and Extreme Deviance, because that's all they deal in. They want terrorism, they want serial killers, they want rapists, they want whatever sick, disgusting thing you can imagine. Like the Jerry Sandusky thing. That was tailor-made for television, wasn't it? He repeatedly raped 10 or 15 boys, some of them 100 individual times. Penn State knew about it for years and didn't lift a finger, and so did the police department. That's tailor-made for the news, because they have so many angles on that story. 9/11, too, was perfectly made for the news media. And you think the terrorists didn't do that on purpose? They didn't go attack something in South Dakota, even though they could have, or a nuclear power plant in the middle of Wyoming, even though that might have caused more damage. They wanted the impact factor of people seeing that on television. It was on Times Square video screens. It was on every television. And again, I will tell you something in support of the conflict theory. Did CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, or any of these companies, which by the way, ABC is Disney, did they donate the profits they made from the commercials during 9/11 to the 9/11 charities? You better believe they didn't. And I know for a fact that back in the minds of these reporters, they were just chomping at the bit, you know, wringing their hands going, oh my gosh, this is going to be a big story. Just like the economic crisis, they didn't care that 6.3 million people lost their jobs in 1 year. It was just a story. Okay? So anyway, so with the crime aspects, it's this element of, because the news media shows so much violence and crime, that people have a fearful view of society. So here are some models. And I'll show you a slide. This is on the, part of this is on the slideshow. Okay, so make sure you look up the slideshow. I'll show you that here in a second. So here's the models. Make sure to write this down here. So cultivation theory suggests, and in its earlier iterations, it didn't include this. One of the things they found was, because, and this was also back when television only had essentially four channels. Excuse me. What it suggests is because there were only a few stations and there was formulas for making money off of TV, that TV stations would engage in the same content, especially, again, with the sex and the violence, and overemphasize violence. And it wasn't just violence, but other things too. Cultivation theory looked at racial, remember we looked at racial stereotypes, gender stereotypes, environmental values, religious beliefs. Cultivation looked at, but it initially started out looking at violent content. So, and I told you, the first version of it only had this top part, where heavy amounts of TV viewing versus lighter viewers of TV news, or TV in general, would lead to the cultivation of the TV view of the world. And the TV view of the world is that humans are evil. If you walk outside your house, you're going to get raped or shot or stabbed, or your kids are going to get kidnapped, and don't drink water, and don't eat food from the store, and beware of toothbrushes, and look out for lead paint. And so one of my students in my other class told me that his dad, who was a health person in the health community, called him and said that he saw a TV show on a local news station that talked about the dangers of third-hand smoking. And the news has to invent panics. Remember the swine flu? How many people in the United States died from the swine flu? 10,000. Do you know how many died from the regular flu every year? 200,000. The stupidity of some of the stuff that goes on in the news media is just too much. What they do is, in many ways, they create moral panics. Right? Like if tomorrow a scientist put a report out and it was a bad science report that said iPods cause hand cancer, not a single one of you would touch them tomorrow. Probably cause brain cancer anyway, so don't worry about it. And if you got brain cancer, your chances of survival are about 15%. So have fun. Probably a little bit better now, but anyway. So again, and what it leads to, because there's all this focus on the mean, on the world being mean and scary, that people start to believe that the world is mean and scary. But here's the problem. In order for me to start watching these TV shows, let's say I think the world is scary anyway. I already think the world is scary anyway. What am I probably going to do to confirm my views? I'm going to watch TV. And plus, if I'm scared, am I going to go outside? And if you're not going to go outside, what are you going to do? So there's part of the problem there, that maybe we need to start with the value system. So again, this is TV viewing leads to impact and values, almost like a linear relationship, although there is a little bit of interaction with content. We do decide what shows we watch. Like I told you repeatedly, I hate, and it's fine if you guys like them, I hate crime dramas. Hate them! I don't need to know anything more about human nature than I already learned. Just like somebody, they were talking on the radio, is that everybody should go read these Hunger Games. I don't read books for fun. That's what, because I read for a profession. If you were a janitor, do you want to come home and clean your house too? You know? Seriously. Just like if I'm a dentist. I don't want to go home and clean somebody's teeth. Okay? So part of it is my own personal reality. But that's fine for me, and if other people like to read for fun, that's the only reading they do, because they don't read for their job or something like that, that's great. But in general, if I don't watch crime programs, am I going to be impacted by the fear? No. So choices have a lot to do with this. So interpretation or feedback loop theory which I've got notes for that I'm going to post on Blackboard, so make sure to look that over, suggests that, you know what, look, you got the cart before the horse. It's people's likes, look, values in their social demographics, what race you are, age. Like, let me tell you something. Do you think a lot of 45, well, I was going to say 45-year-old men watch Lady Gaga, what we saw on the YouTube thing that they do, okay? But let me put it this way. Do you think that a lot of 45-year-olds watch iCarly? I doubt it, right? They probably watch Degrassi because they're concerned about their kids watching it. But anyway, okay? And they don't watch cartoons and all this other stuff. How many 10-year-olds do you think watch Law and Order? Maybe some. I'll give you that. They probably don't understand everything about it. You shouldn't have 10-year-olds watching Desperate Housewives, but you know they do. Okay. But again, that our beliefs on our social demographics, or like, for example, what is BET and who's most likely to watch that channel? What's BET? Anybody know? Black Entertainment Television. So, do you think they have a lot of white-oriented content on there? Does that mean that white people wouldn't like it at all? But are they going to watch it a lot? How about Spike TV for Men? Who do you think is going to watch that? You think heterosexual women like to see girls in bikinis jumping on trampolines? There was one episode I saw where they drink on the show. And some of them were... No, you know what it was? It was a Jimmy Fallon show where those guys came on the show and they let them drink and then they threw up on the show. And man, you gotta be a sloppy drunk to be throwing up in beer, seriously. Unless somebody like put dirt in it or something. The only time I ever threw up in beer is my friend came up and put a rock in my cup. And I was too drunk to really care. And I probably should have gotten another cup, and that was when I was 22. So I don't do that kind of crap anymore. Anyway, but values, social demographics, beliefs, and likes drive you to the TV show and show selection. And if all I'm watching are Home and Garden Channel or C-SPAN, I don't think I'm going to be afraid. All right? I mean, seriously. So we've got to take that into account. But here's what the interpretation feedback loop says. Because I choose things that I like, for example, if I'm a liberal, am I going to watch Bill O'Reilly or Rush Limbaugh? No. Even if I do, that might... Am I going to take him seriously? Or want to take him seriously? I may watch this to make myself mad. Like sometimes, you know how they say keep your friends closer or your enemies closer? Whatever. I say keep your friends and enemies. I don't see much difference. Anyway, friends are just enemies haven't turned on you yet. That's what Dwight said. It's like your girlfriend's just soon to be just an ex-girlfriend that hasn't turned on you yet. Anyway, or your wife, or your husband, or whatever. Anyway, so what happens is if you're a liberal, this tends to make you strengthen your reinforce your own beliefs. Either make you more liberal or at least just maintain your liberalness. Right? Now, external things can come in. Like events in your own life or national events that can change your mind. Like, don't you think, like, let's take the 2008 election. Don't you think because the Republicans were being blamed for, I don't know how fair that is, but being blamed for the economic crisis, that a lot of people who were Republicans switched? My sister voted for Barack Obama. She's never voted for a Democrat in her life. And this is why I make fun of John McCain. She told me it was 2 words, Sarah Palin. Okay? And she lives in Ohio. It was the end of it. McCain would have, I'm telling you, that would have been, those of you who love Obama, that would have been razor thin. That might have went to the Supreme Court again if he wouldn't have picked that dumbass. Okay? She talked about not having sex before marriage and her 16-year-old daughter was pregnant. That's Alaska for you. Talk a big show and then do the exact opposite, you know? Alaska, let me tell you guys something. Alaskans are degenerates. They make West Virginians look like they live in Paris, okay? Seriously. They have no culture, they have no value system, they're horrendously narcissistic. Isn't that exactly the way Sarah Palin is? Acts like she knows everything and knows nothing. Isn't that the way she behaves? Okay, and if I was a Republican, I'd kick her out of the party. Just like David Duke, who was the head of the Klan, was a Republican. Is that a good look for the Republicans? Have a member of the Klan to be part of your party? I don't think that's a good idea. Okay? Or similarly, let's take racism. If you hold racist views, is the TV, you're going to be led to content that you agree with, or that portrays groups and people that you don't like, or gender biases, right? Again, like Spike. And there's not a lot of women watching Spike TV, and there's not a lot of men watching the Oprah Network or we. How many men here watch the Women's Entertainment Network? I mean, it's got women right in the name. You know? I mean, if your friends see you watching that show, they'll give you a coupon for a manicure and a hairdo after that. Seriously. Be like, I saw a nice shoe store down the street. You want to go shopping? Because if you watch that channel, it is nonsense for men. Right? It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing enjoyable on it. Okay? Unless you're trying to... I can see men watching that trying to, like, learn about women so they can scam them. Get some shoes that smell like chocolate. Might do it. Then somebody would go out on a date with me. Anyway. But events can happen. Okay? In your personal life. Let's say you're a racist. And you were drowning in the lake. And somebody from a different race came and saved you. Might that change your mind? What if you fall in love with somebody from a different race? Might that change your mind? Because let's face it, look, the hardcore racists that are willing to lynch people, those people are gone. And if they aren't gone, they live in Alabama somewhere, and they have no teeth, and they distill moonshine, and they're too stupid to do anything right. I mean, thank God that racists are pretty stupid people. Okay? It was dangerous in the 50s when the head of the local business community and the mayor and the sheriff was the people hanging people. That was a different reality. So let's face it, racism has gone down, but it's gone underground. So there's still a lot of people out there. And the reason why I give you that example of the Dave Chappelle show, is that couldn't that be easily interpreted? Many of you expressed the idea that you thought that did more to reinforce stereotypes about black people and white people to some extent than it did to damage them. And again, we talked about this element of that Chappelle did that for profit, right? He didn't do it. To say Dave Chappelle did that to enlighten America is just being naive. Now, why did he pick race? Because it's one of his favorite subjects. It's also one of these subjects that gets focused into comedy a lot. The comedy nowadays, and it's probably maybe always been this way, deals with taboo subjects. Lenny Bruce was arrested several times for just saying the word blank sucker. Fill in the blank. Okay? And he was one of the first people who talked about racial epithets and stuff as only having power because you give them power. And he was very on the edge of a lot of things. But in general, you can see how that could be easily misinterpreted. That if I'm a racist, I could watch that Dave Chappelle show and go, see, even black people think black people are that way. Or why do black people call each other the N-word constantly? But that would, to a racist, that would be fodder. That would be material for me to use. Or to look at soul plane and go, see, told you all those stereotypes were true. And let's face it, unfortunately, stereotypes do have grounding in some element of reality, don't they? There are people, black and white and Hispanic and Asian, who act like the people on Dave Chappelle's show. It might only be 10 or 15%, but again, that's what stereotypes are about, right? Like Chad. Most people aren't like, most white people aren't like that. Although there are plenty of them that are, right? Or like Tron. Most black people aren't like that, right? Put somebody in a sleeper hold so they get anally raped by two ex-cons. I mean, the absurdity of that, right? And again, most people aren't going to stab someone's dad or ask them if they have weed in their brownies or things. So some of it was ridiculous. But let's face it, come on. The reason why everybody made such a fuss about Jeremy Lin is because he went against the stereotype. Chinese Americans and Asian Americans in general don't play basketball. And when they do, they don't play at that high of a level. Okay? But just like there's Asian basketball players, there are also black mathematicians. I know that's hard for people to believe. They're black people who play lacrosse, not basketball. Yeah, very few. Wasn't it Brashear? Wasn't Donald Brashear black? He's an older player. They used to target him specifically. Okay? We're not talking about American racism. And Canadians always like to make themselves be out of America light. Canadians on some levels are way more racist than Americans are. We as Americans are a much more diverse society. Canada's like 5% black, if that. I'm serious. You ever been to Canada? Anybody ever been to Canada? You have to search in the phone book to find somebody who's not white. Seriously, you know? I mean, you have to scour the town unless you're in Toronto. Seriously. And in Toronto and Windsor are right next to Detroit, which in parts of it are 97% black. Okay? Anyway. And I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest reasons why there aren't more black people in hockey is not only the expense, but the racism. There's no doubt in my mind. Just like why there aren't more black head coaches in the NFL. Or black quarterbacks. On and on down the line. Right? And the media plays a role in that. Okay? Remember remember last time? Remember in that article, does TV shape ethnic images? Remember we talked about that? What happened when they wanted to, remember All in the Family, right? Is this show about the racist guy? They wanted to make fun of Archie, right? So they wanted to attack racism. What did they say some bigots were thinking? How did they view Archie? How did they view Archie? You remember?
Looked up to him.
Huh?
They looked up to him.
Yeah, like a hero. He was legitimizing where everybody else was telling them they're bad because they say these words. And be like, well, I'm just like Archie. I'm misunderstood. Right? Or and even in the song for All in the Families, it's about the good old days. And he says in there, when a man was a man instead of like looking like a woman, right? Like with long hair, like it's saying that. Where's the good old days? And I'll tell you right now, the only people who want to go back to the 1950s are probably old white men. Okay, seriously, because they dominated the world back then. I mean, Americans especially. I mean, it was great if you were a white man in the 1950s. You had everything. And nobody said no to you, and nobody got in your face. And if they did, they went to jail. Okay? There's no such thing as domestic violence or date rape or any of these things. Okay? There was no Civil Rights Act. And if you were a communist, man, better off being an anarchist. Alright, so the last part here we're going to go over, I want to show you the slideshow here that talks about cultivation theory, and I'll read over this real quick. It'll come up. It's already up there. Can somebody, can you draw that for me? Alright. I know it's a little hard to see. I think it's warming up. Anyway. So this is what I have on the slideshow. I think it's because that window back there. So this is, cultivation theory was not developed to study targeted specific effects, meaning that watching Superman will lead children to attempt to fly by jumping out the window. You can shut that window if you want. My stepbrother actually thought he was the Penguin and jumped off the roof. Leave it to my stepbrother to think he was an evil supervillain. Anyway, I mean, this is a kid who brought a gun to school in 7th grade, you know, and that was before it was cool. Nobody got hurt, he got suspended, and he eventually ended up dropping out in 8th grade. You see what I had to deal with in my life? This type of crap. And I got tainted because I was in the same household with him. He's a pawnbroker now. So you guys think because I wear some polo shirt and teach that like I came out of the suburbs and that people showed me respect and love and bought me things and that I had like an easy. I love that people think that crap. He was a pawnbroker. He's a pawnbroker. What did you think I said? Huh?
You said pawnbroker.
No, I don't even know what that is. Anyway. But basically, this cumulative and overarching impact that television has on the way we see the world in which we live. Gerbner, Gross, Morgan, and Signorelli wrote an article in 1986 that argued that while religion and education had previously been greater influence on social trends and mores, now television is the source of the most broadly shared images and messages in history. Television cultivates from infancy the very predispositions and preferences that used to be acquired from the primary sources. So there you might want to use it in question 1. The repetitive patterns of television's mass-produced messages and images forms the mainstream of a common symbolic environment. It goes on basically to say that television impacts people's views of reality, and that in the world creates a scary world effect. Here are some of the expansion of the cultivation theory. They actually they wrote this study in 2002 to update this for 2 things. 1, to take into account parental co-viewing, which you see up here, results in more adolescents being immune to some of these effects of cultivation because parents talk about it. They balance off the information in the media. They say this is not what everybody does, or this is not the reality. Also, on top of it, that Gerbner also said that if the information on television matches what you already believe, so we're almost to the interpretation model, or closely resembles what you experience in your own life, that'll cause a double dose, which will amplify the effect. So if you were mugged and you see a story about being mugged, it tend to make you more frightened or more defensive or more apt to go get a security system or a gun or whatever it is. So anyway, don't worry about mainstreaming necessarily. That's more on the political side of it anyway. So anyway, but as you see, it's breaking down cultivation theory, and it's related to conflict theory because conflict theory suggests that content is limited due to what's profitable, and what's profitable is violence and sex, and particularly violence. We have this element of concentration of ownership, the role of ads, that you need ad dollars by ratings, use of official sources, that's not as important here, and punishment for those stations and individuals that don't play by the rules. Okay. On top of that, so this creates this TV world, which is the world of distortion. So this drive for profits and viewers leads to overly dramatic presentation of all media material, news and entertainment that tends to emphasize negative aspects of stories and uses sex and violence to generate attention and media buzz. Hence the TV world described in the book and studied by Gerbner in the 1970s and 80s, but has content changed with the new media. And if you actually look at it, what are some of the most popular videos on YouTube? It's sex, or it's drugs, or it's somebody making a comment about some violent stuff. Remember the Coney video, this warlord from Uganda that made it around the loose change. Think of Lady Gaga's song Love Game, had 85 million hits. So is the internet that much different? And when a violent story takes place, isn't it all over the place? Isn't it? It's tweeted. And nowadays, it's even worse. Now it gets tweeted and retweeted and put up on YouTube and forwarded on Facebook, or the link sent to somebody on email. So what we call is an echo effect, that it echoes through the system. Like when something happens, you hear about it 50 times. It reminds me of Katrina. The initial reports of Katrina that 7 or 8 people had, I think it was like 5 or 6 people had been raped and 7 or 8 people had died. You know what they found out? There was one dead body, and I think there might have been one rape, which is bad enough, but still. They had one dead body, but 7 or 8 reporters saw it. So it got reported as 7 deaths. So that kind of stuff goes on. Okay? And then, what's the impact on viewers? This distorted view that's created by TV and media companies that sell their media products into products of other companies, like the iPad and stuff. Through ads by making content that will attract viewers. The impact is that heavy viewers seem to hold views that are similar to the reality presented on television. This leads to them believing that crime is getting worse, to mistrust people, and hold stereotypes about those who commit crime, particularly racial minorities. Other areas examined by cultivation: racial attitudes, environmental values, and materialism. Implications: attitudes and behaviors towards crime, support of harsh punishment, that's what the article talked about. Fear of others and antisocial behavior, not going outside, not talking to people. You guys, come on, it's only 2 minutes left. Spread of fear by relating distorted media stories to others. So it doesn't even matter if you don't watch TV. Your mom's going to come in and say there's a serial killer in Yogo Beach. Or somebody got raped at your school last week. Something like that. Like remember the Hofstra rape case? Did that make you feel comfortable? Right? Didn't they come to find out that was that the one that was a fake admission, or was that the dude? Right. That the woman had consensually done this and avoid the social stigma had said this. There was another case though, and this was chilling. Some woman was raped in the back of an alley. I told you, outside of a bar. I told you guys about bars. And she caught it on her cell phone. Yeah. See? And the media loves that kind of stuff, not because they want to help the victim, but because it's so sensational. Like the 9/11 phone calls where people are breaking up because they know they're going to die, right? I miss you. People love hearing that stuff. It's like a train wreck. You don't want to watch it, but you want to watch it. Okay? Anyway, alright, we'll end there today. Make sure to watch Merchants of Cool. I got the link on Blackboard for you. If you just put Merchants of Cool into Google, it'll come right up. Make sure to read for next time. It's the internet art.
Its quick-cut, channel surf-resistant vignettes draw their characters so thinly they nearly disappear. It's sex TV's answer to wrestling, stringing together explosions of pop to keep its teen audience hooked.
I'll give you something you've been obsessing about. ever since our parents got married.
Meanwhile, at the Cineplex, amped-up efforts like Cruel Intentions were bringing unprecedented sexual sophistication to teen movies. One of the biggest teen hits of 1999